Hello, Hans Westman here. We are going to continue our series of introductions for Blender 3D software. This time we are going to learn how to add a light to a scene. So let's get to it. Now that we have collected our scene and set this up, doing appends and bringing in the objects that we have been modeling during the course of learning different aspects of Blender. Next step would be to see how things look once we add something to light up the environment. So what we're going to do here is go into Add, and you'll see that here we have an option where we can add lights. Point light, sunlight, spotlight, area light. And as a default, what we're going to do is we're going to add a point light. Okay, right now we don't see anything because of the fact that we need to add the option of being able to see this as a rendered scene. This would be by going to Z and hitting rendered. So now you can see that we have like a light which is being used in order to light the scene. By default, you actually do have another light here. We'll see what that looks like first, and that's this one, which we're looking at right here. But we've added another light, so I'm going to turn off the default light and bring in this light here. We're going to see what we can do with that. First thing I'm going to want to do here is I want to move it up. And let's see, there we go. We click on it, and you can see that it's moving a little bit, but as far as having the effect that I want it to have, it's not quite there. In other words, we want the scene to be fully lit up. And what I can do here is I can, first of all, manipulate that with the different options that are available in order to change the different parameters of the light. So just to do a form of repetition here, you can see we have our object. This we're familiar with. And normally, if I were to, for instance, click on a chair right here, you can see that I have this, and underneath there's something which is called modifiers and modifier properties. We can add different things here in order to enhance our modeling process with that. Now, as far as a light is concerned, and let's go to Z first and go to wireframe so it's a little bit easier to see. Right there is the light, but we don't have that same option as far as modifiers. In other words, that little wrench symbol is not there. When it is concerning a light, what we're going to be working with is the data object properties. So if we click on that, this is the menu that we have in order to be able to adjust different aspects of the light. Right now, as far as the strength of the light is concerned, we have it at 10 watts. So let's go to Z, once again, Z, and we're going to hit rendered so we can see what the effect of this would be. So I'm going to change this first from 10 to 100. You can see that there's a little bit of an effect which has happened here. Shadows, I can turn on and off right there. You can also determine the filter size of that and the resolution. And we can maybe, you can just mess with that so you can see how that whole thing works there. And next thing we can do is we can go ahead and increase this from 100 to 1000. And now we have a light strength, which is probably more in conjunction with what our interest in. If we move this around, you can also see that we have like this option. Okay. Other things that we can do here is, for instance, the color. Let's say we want to have a little bit of a offset as far as like a yellowish tone to this yellowish red. I can go to that possibly. And you can see that we have other different options as far as influence is concerned. For the diffuse, we have there. If we take a little bit of a stronger watt, let's take this to 3000 instead. And what I'm trying to do here, if we move this in this direction, I want to get a little bit of a gloss here on this bottle right there. Right there, you can see that there's a little bit of a gloss. But I can adjust that as well too, where I can make it more of a matte or a glossy there. Transmission, not much is happening, and then you have the volume there as well too. But all of this really has an effect. You can see on the apples too, if I change the glossiness, I'm sure, right there. And then you have the strength of the diffuse. So that's one way of doing this. You can also, if we take a look at other options, I'm not going to go too deeply into this. Here's the radius as well too. So you can see like the amount of influence which you're doing with the lighting here also. You can see how that's also affecting the shadows. So as you work with this, you'll probably see more and more and understand what it is that you need to do in order to make this work the way that you want. Once you've created a light, you also have the same option as what you had here with adding a light, point, sun, spot, and area. You can actually just change that light here. So we're not going to work with the sunlight at this point right now, but if we go to the spotlight, you can see that we have something which is working for us right here. And if I were to rotate this, I'm just going to go ahead and do that with this one right here. Bring it up, just like that. And then if I to go to the move, now you can see here, as far as moving that light is concerned, right there, shift middle mouse button to drag this down, is dependent on which of these selections. So normal gives you a real sense as far as like the direction of the light is concerned. So if I even change this one here, you'll see that this is going to move also with the light. And you'll have another set of options here as well that you can work with. Radius would be the one, obviously. We've already got that. But then we have also the possibility of, if we either interactively with this little arrow pull this, we got the same thing there, that we can also use a blend, and that determines the soft edge as far as how hard that spot is going to be or not. There. And I think that here's the degrees as well too. So this is how much of an area you're going to be working with. So by combining the different light types, you can set up your scene, which we're not going to go into so much. This is just mainly to give you a sense as far as like how to be able to get access to the different things in order to manipulate the lighting. Here you can also determine, for instance, the distance of influence right here. If I were to change this to 100 meters, for instance, you can see that it's a bit stronger. So there you basically have it. One last thing. As far as like this box is concerned, another thing too about lights is if you take a look at this light right here, if we're wanting to, for instance, manipulate this and change the data parameters as far as how the effect of this light is going to be, you would normally think that, yeah, okay, well, I'm going to go to an edit mode. Well, with a light, that option is not available. In other words, it is an object and it is manipulated in the object mode under the data or data object properties. Okay.